Okay, so Shalom Ubracha, and welcome back, and welcome to the new people also, Baruch Hashem. So we are going to be continuing with where we left off in Rav Noson's prayer, Likutey Tefilot, prayer 24, which is on Likutey Moharan lesson 24. We're in the paragraph which touches upon very, very delicate concepts, deep concepts, and Rav Noson's attitude in expression in the prayer of the only way to connect to these very high, lofty levels is only through the power of Ratzon, desire. This is a place where Rav Noson reveals a point that's not mentioned in Rabbi Nachman's lesson, but it's between the lines, and Rav Noson brings it out in a most amazing way. This concept of a Ratzon, which basically means when a Jew is trying to do something good, he's trying to advance, he's trying to go forward, and there's obstacles. And the obstacles are meant not to push a person back and say, it's not for me. The obstacles is meant to try to instill and activate the person's Ratzon. That the person should say, Hashem, what do you want from me? I want to do this, but the obstacles are not letting me do it. I'm being pushed back by you, Hashem. What do you want from me, Hashem? All I wanted was to be a good Jew. All I wanted was to do mitzvot and maasim tovim. That's all I wanted. And it's not working out, Hashem. Okay? This point, can you turn on the AC? Yeah. This point is not mentioned by Rabbi Nachman in the lesson, but Rav Noson in this paragraph of the prayer we're holding, he develops it. And he shows that this is the key. Rabbi Nachman calls in the lesson, quoting from the Kabbalah, this level that's called the accessing the infinite light, which is basically salvation in every area of life. It's called Orota Tzachtzachot, the light of splendors. It's a funny word, splendors. It's not even a good translation, but it's the best we can do in English. Tzachtzachot. Tzachtzachot means splendors, and the word Tzachtzachot, the Zohar says, can be interpreted. The wording of the Zohar is above and below. It can be interpreted above, meaning that tzach means in Hebrew something which is clear, pure, clean, and bright. So it's referring to this light, which is or tzach, a very clean light, which is referring to Hashem's infinite light. Okay? So that's, the Zohar says that's how it's explained above. And below, tzach, tzachut in Hebrew also means thirst. Someone who's thirsty and he's dying for water. He's begging for water. He's like so yearning for wine, for water. Tzimaon it's called. The tzimaon is the thirst. He's thirsty and the thirst makes him to yearn for the water. So that's tzachot. So the Zohar says that it can be interpreted both ways. But it doesn't resolve it. Rav Noson here resolves it. He shows that the way to tap into this light, orot tzachtzachot, is by expressing your thirst. But the only way a Jew can have a thirst is if he has obstacles. Because when everything's going smooth, everything's clean, everything's okay, my learning, my Torah study is okay, my davening's okay, my family life is okay, my children are okay, my health is okay. So there's no yearning. There's no place for yearning. What do you need to yearn? Everything's going smooth. It's when a person is pushed back in life in different areas and he feels so submitted, so broken, so not knowing what to do. That's when the yearning comes out. And in this lesson, Rabbi Nachman, Rav Noson shows that Rabbi Nachman is saying that the way to get a person to want is you have to give a person a pushback. He has to have obstacles. In Hebrew, they're called miniot, obstacles. And we have to transform. Rabbi Nachman says in another lesson, lesson 66, we have to transform the miniot to ne'imot, to pleasantness. That things that the obstacles should be transformed into pleasantness. And this is an amazing thing in life. That when you see you're being bombarded and all of a sudden you have all these debts to pay, oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay the braces and the tuition and for the wedding and this and that? Okay? Where things are just bombarding you, parnasa. And then things are popping up nonstop. You say, Hashem, what do you want from me? Just a second ago, I was calm, easy, relaxed, life was okay. And all of a sudden, bombarded. And a person feels like so frustrated, messed up, bewildered. It's only to bring out the Ratzon. It's a reminder for the person that the only way for him to open up the doors of the tzachot, and that Hashem was trying to send a salvation. All this is an indication that something good is on the way. It's not like you're being pushed back, oh, it's finished, it's over. It's just the exact opposite, that something amazing is about to happen to you in life, but the only way to have it activated is that you have to have these obstacles. You have to be pushed back. So why? So that when you're pushed back, the yearning is activated, and the yearning, which is a part of tzachot, activates the orot, these light of splendors, which opens up the doors for a person in life. So he's teaching us that this is the way. The way is that you have to have the setback, and when you're pushed back, you're yearning, and you're holding on, and you're trying your best, and you don't give up, and then Hashem does what He does with you. Amazing things happen, you can't even explain it. And then when you get out of it, and you have miracles happen, you yourself say to other people, I have no idea how it happened. It was a pure miracle. Hashem just came in, all of a sudden a phone call, this worked out. I can't explain it. Because the truth is, you can't explain it. It's unexplainable. The openings that Hashem sends a person are unexplainable. That's how it is. Irrational. It's above rationale. It's from the level which is above the dat, above comprehension. It comes from the orot tzachot. But for a person to experience it, he has to be pushed in a mode where he's not there, that his head is not thinking, and that's when Hashem comes into play to activate what's called the 9 chambers, this concept we mentioned in previous classes, the 9 chambers that fill in with this, that are vessels to be filled with this light that then saves a person. And even the vessels and the light are beyond comprehension. So what's up to me to do? Up to me to do is 2 points. Simcha, like we said at the beginning of this lesson, that when a person works on being besimcha, he comes to this keter, which is the wall that pushes a person back. So the simcha gets a person back up and going forward. And then when he hits the keter and the keter pushes him back and he goes through all of these crazy things, then comes into play the stage of emunah. And emunah in this case is reflected to the idea of the ratzon, the desire. The inner yearning comes out. Because when you believe in something, that's when your yearning comes out. When you believe that you have to do this as A, B, C, so then you express your ratzon. You believe in it. You're trying to connect to it. You're having obstacles. All you can do is to yearn. The yearning is a byproduct of the emunah. All right. So we're gonna continue, but not from where we left off at the beginning of this section. We're gonna just go a few lines inside. We left off last class in the verse that Rav Noson is quoting. Rav Noson is phenomenal. There's such a high level of Ruach HaKodesh, of divine inspiration in his prayers. Number one, and that you can find yourself in what he's saying. And number two, when he's quoting verses, the verses themselves are so timely. They're so designed amazingly that when he brings them in, it's not like just throwing in a verse, okay, it's a similar idea, let's just throw it in, like poetry, chas shalom. There's Ruach HaKodesh, and also when Rav Noson throws in a verse, and it means a lot, Baruch Hashem, okay? So we're going to go into, again, the verse we said last class, plus advance to the next 2 verses. So in the middle of the section, it starts off like this. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and translate, and you'll see where in the English translation I'm holding. So he says like this. After he's explained already about the 9 chambers that are above the level of Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. We went into this last class, okay? The whole idea of the keter, the organizing, settling, and organizing of the mind, and the delay, and in and out. We went into all these ideas before. So at this point, Rav Noson now goes into the stage of the Ratzon, like we just spoke about. So he says like this. Ki ata Hashem levad yadata עוצם רדיפת השתוקקות נפשי ורוחי ונשמתי בשורשם העליון להשיג השגות אלו אשר לכך נוצרתי. Because you, Hashem, alone You alone. By him saying alone, that means even other people can't discern what's inside of you. The Ratzon of a Jew is undiscernible by other people. Rav Noson once said, I can explain the most difficult Maharam Shif than another Jew. Maharam Shif and Maharam Shik are two commentaries in the Gemara which are considered very deep, very complex, because the authors, they were very big brains, big minds, and they went into what's called a deep pilpul in the Gemara, a deep examination in the Gemara, and you needed to hold a lot of facts in together when following what they're trying to say. You have to keep in mind so many items and not lose track. They're very complex, very difficult, and yet Rav Noson said, it's easier for me to explain the most difficult passage in the Maharam Shif or Maharam Shik, I forgot which one he said, than to explain another Jew. Because you can never know what's in the other Jew's heart. You have no idea what he's going through. You have no idea how he thinks, how he feels. You have no idea where his Ratzon is. You see a guy sitting next to you in the bus, another Jewish guy davening you next to shul. You look at him, look at this guy, nobody. What does he know? He has a little tiny kippah like this, and he's like putting on his tefillin, and he has no beard, and he has even a tattoo and stuff. And you begin to wonder, what does he know about Yiddishkeit? Look at him. What does he know about being religious? You know, you have no idea what's in his heart. You have no idea what gets him to come to shul. You have no idea what he's going through. You have no idea where his Ratzon is. Only Hashem knows what's in the Jew, inside the heart of another Jew. Because you can't judge anybody. Rav Noson, we're going to go into this eventually. Rav Noson says, it's not good to look at other people. You start looking at people and judgmental, this and that. Stop. X. You have no idea who he is, and you have no clue where he's coming from. So stop looking. Don't try to compare. Don't try to learn moral lessons in life from judging other people in a negative way, and then from that to learn lessons for yourself. Don't do that, because you have no idea who he is. How many times I made this mistake personally? I tried to make an image, someone who looked funny in my eyes, looked strange, looked weird, and in the end it was exact opposite of what I thought. When we had to speak to the person, discover, what? That's him? He's that type of person, he does that? And you feel so stupid, you feel embarrassed, you made the wrong conclusions about another person. Because again, like Rav Noson says, you have no idea, number one, on the simple level, who the other Jew is, but you have no idea what's in their heart. You can't say, look at him, I can tell by how he looks and how he talks and everything, that he's like a stingy person, he's like this type of person, he's like a shy, he's a nerd, whatever. You can't. Especially when it comes to Jewish people, we have the Ratzon, the yearning, and the Ratzon is our gateway to the infinite light. So because it's the gateway to the infinite light, you have no idea what's in his heart. So stop. You can never know. It's easier to explain a Maharam Shif than to explain another Jew, because you have no idea what's in his heart. So Rav Noson's wording here, again, Ki ata Hashem levad. Because you, Hashem, alone, you know alone. No one else knows what's inside of me. What's making me run, what's in my inner essence. Only you, Hashem, alone know. Otzem, the powerful, like the enormous redifat ishtokekut, the enormous pursuing of the ishtokekut, of the yearning, the pining, the cleaving of my Nefesh, number one, of my Ruach, of my Neshama. You have levels of yearning. You have basic levels of yearning, then you have deeper, and then you have deeper. And they break down into three levels. What?
Yearning is yearning.
But we're going to that. What's the difference between nichsefa vegam kalta nafshi? We're going to that, okay? What's nichsefa and what's kalta? What's coming up in the verse Rav Noson's going to quote, we're going to see. But he's saying, hishtokekut is a general term for yearning. There's hishtokekut, yearning of the soul, the lower soul. There's hishtokekut of the ruach, and hishtokekut of the neshama. On a basic level, hishtokekut of the nefesh is that a Jew yearns for basic things to serve Hashem, basic necessities. Hashem, let me have money for Shabbat so I can do Shabbat. Hashem, let me have this, have a house so I can do the mitzvah chnasat orchim. It's the basics of Judaism. Hashem, let me have money to buy tefillin. That's for the nefesh, for the actual fulfillment of the physical parts of the mitzvah, okay? Ruach is where now you're beyond that. You want to feel the tefillin. You want to feel the Shabbat. You want to feel the power of having a guest at home and feeling the Shabbos table. You want to feel what you're doing. That's already Ruach, spirit. Ruach is the wind. Wind. It's like coming into you, but it's an experience where it's not you. It's coming into you, and you want a part of it. Okay, I got tefillin. I have Shabbos food. I'm doing Shabbat. Okay, great. I want to feel Shabbat now. That's Ruach. And Neshama, Hishtokekut of the Neshama, is with the da'at, of the mind. That you're yearning to understand. You're yearning to know. Because ilu yada'it, how does it go? Ilu yadativ heyitiv. There's an expression from the Kuzari, Rabbi Nachman quotes this quotation, that if ilu yadativ, if I would know him, I would become him, heyitiv. That the more you know of Hashem, the more you become part of Hashem. Isn't that crazy? The more you know about the Torah, the more you become a part of the Torah. The knowledge itself, like the Zohar says, why did Hashem create the world? Begin, da'at. In order that the world, people should know about him. Knowledge is the greatest. Okay? So there's yearning for that knowledge, yearning for the experience, yearning for the actual fulfillment. So Nefesh is the fulfillment, doing. Yearning for the Ruach, that's the experience, and yearning for the Neshama. Okay? So if Noson says, all three, no one else knows. It's between me and God. Me and God. I heard once from a student of Rabbi Rosenfeld, Rabbi Peretz Rebbe, that he once asked Rabbi Rosenfeld, can you show me an example of like how to do it and express what's in your heart? So he said, I'll show you. And like he took him to a corner, and then he started turning red, closing his eyes, and crying to Hashem. He said, that's how you do it. He flipped out. He didn't expect his rabbi, his teacher was like, normal and joking, and to do that was like a different person. Because that's the idea. The inner Ratzon of a person, it can be 180 degrees different than what you see. You see someone, his life is joking and this and that. But then when he talks to God, he's a different person. Because the Ratzon of inside the Jew, no one knows about it. It's between a person and God. So Rav Noson saying, Ki ata levad yadata, because only you, Hashem, alone, you know the otzem, the awesomeness. There's not a good translation. Otzem, like the powerful awesomeness and the greatness. Again, these are bad translations, but that's like the otzem means like the powerful impact, impression of how much is running towards you, my ishtokekut of the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, b'shosham ha'elyon, okay, in their upper root. Now we're saying the ishtokekut is b'shosham. The ishtokekut, it's not leshosham, it's b'shosham. It's in their upper root. Because the Ratzon is the root. So when it's activated, you are activating the shoresh of the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, with this ishtokekut. As retifat ishtokekut, in their upper root, from that point, for what? Lehasig hasagot elu, to perceive, to have a conception of these perceptions, these conceptions that we mentioned, which are what? The 9 chambers. The 9 chambers are themselves, Rav Noson writes clearly in the Likutey Halachot, are the lights of splendor, are the orot hatzachtzachot, and they are the actual accessing of the infinite light. And that's my nefesh, ruach, neshama, at their root, they're yearning for this. Again, Rav Noson once said, even a Jew who says the worst things about Torah and Yiddishkeit, and says and does the worst things, I still know that deep down inside he wants to be a good Jew. That's crazy. Even the biggest sinners, most of the case, the reason why they became what they became is because they couldn't bring out from potential to actual their Ratzon. They saw that they wanted one thing, and it's impossible to do, so the age of this, well, I don't need this. I'll go find something else in life. They directed their Ratzon to other areas. I just heard something unbelievable, that there were 2 people in the Jewish world who became big like atheists and whatever, I think Nachman Bialik was another, and I forgot the name. Two guys, one had an amazing voice, and one was very smart. So now both of them, they grew up in yeshivas, but one went to a Hasidic yeshiva where there's more focus on the nigunim and the singing and the Hasidic environment, and one was more involved in the learning. Okay? Now what happened was the one who had the brain, he went to the Hasidic yeshiva where they were singing. I heard this on Shabbat in Tzfat. Someone told this to me. He heard he was in yeshiva where there was a lot of Hasidic attitude of singing, and the learning wasn't intense, and it wasn't for his brain. It wasn't matching what his yearning was matching to do, so he fell off. Okay, another guy who was into singing and nigunim, they sent him to like a tough yeshiva, and he couldn't handle it, and he fell off. So the one Rebbe said, if they put this one in this yeshiva and this one in that yeshiva, they would have become Gdolei Ador, the Gdolei Israel. But the reason why they fell off is because their yearning wasn't matching the obstacles were too much for their yearning. They couldn't match it. They didn't know how to bridge from the yearning to the obstacle that they were sent, and then they fell off. So if Noson once said that deep down inside, no matter what a Jew says, he might say the worst things against Judaism. I know that deep down inside, he's still a good Jew. And as Rabbeinu's student, Rabbi Nachman's disciple, someone who came close to him at the end in Uman, one of the biggest maskilim, the enlightened Jews who were secular, and they swore never to say God's name ever. His name was Hirschber Horvitz. He was the son-in-law of Chaikel Horvitz, and Chaikel Horvitz was one of the top disciples of Naftali Wiesel, and Naftali Wiesel was one of the top students of, don't be embarrassed, Moshe Mendelssohn. Moshe Mendelssohn, he's the one who started the Reform movement. Okay? Okay. His main disciple, Naftali Wiesel, wrote a book, Yein Levanon, using the Torah to prove why we have to mix in with the Goyim today before Mashiach comes. And that's the way to bring the salvation, is by becoming like the Goyim. It was scary because he was a Torah scholar who went off, and he uses the Torah to prove against the Torah. And his top student was Chaikel Horvitz, who lived in Uman with his two son-in-laws, Moshe Landau, who was the grandson of the Noda Bihuda, who was a doctor and fell off, and also Hirschber Horvitz. Hirschber Horvitz, Rabbi Nachman called him the head of the snake, the Metzach HaNachash, the head of the snake, because he was so, what's the word in English? So sly, so cunning, so dangerous. And Rabbi Nachman ordered Rav Noson, you are allowed to talk to him, no one else, because only you can handle his dialectics and his arguments and everything. And Rabbi Nachman was able, before he left the world, he came to Uman less than a few months. He came on the Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, almost 6 months, and then he passed away, Rabbi Nachman. In those 6 months, he was able to transform these maskilim. They began to keep Rosh Hashanah, they began to hear the shofar, they began to stop shaving their beard, because they were shaving every day with a razor. They didn't care. And when Rabbi Nachman passed away, Hirschber said, I was beginning to believe there was a God, to Rabbi Nachman. He was able to convince me that there is a God, but then he passed away. When he passed away, Rabbi Noson was lying on the ground next to Rabbi Nachman's body, and he said, Rebbe, to who have you abandoned us? To who have you abandoned us? So Hirschber heard Rabbi Noson saying that. To who have abandoned you? To who has abandoned us? Because if he would have continued to live, we would become totally Baal Tshuvas and totally religious. But the opposite happened, and he went on to destroy Judaism, opening one of the first 3 secular Jewish schools in Ukraine. One was in Uman, one was in Odessa, and I think the third one was in Berdichev. And these 2 Jewish schools, okay, they made a taknon that the schools had to be funded by any family who lit Shabbos candles. If you lit Shabbos candles, you had to pay tax for these secular schools. So the money for the schools was coming from the frum Jewish people who were lighting Shabbos candles. That was the taknon they made. Crazy, huh? And he told Rav Noson, with our schools and what we're planning to do to destroy Yiddishkeit in Russia, with the army decrees to take the forced conscription of the Jewish children to the army, and then forbidding printing of Hasidic literature. He says we're going to make the Jewish people become assimilated. So Rav Noson said, I don't know if you'll succeed, but if you succeed, the world will be transformed back to tohu vavohu, chaos, because the world wasn't created for this. Okay, so in the end, it didn't succeed, and Hirsch Bear was caught in like a scandal of a bankruptcy with the government, and his life was in danger. He fled immediately, Russia. He fled to England. He became a professor in Cambridge University. He changed his name to Professor Herman Bernard. There is a painting of him, unbelievable. A painting of someone who knew Rabbi Nachman. That's our only picture we have of someone, a painting of someone who knew Rabbi Nachman. So you see him with all the hair and everything. And he went on to become a professor of Hebraic and Jewish history and Jewish literature. And he wrote commentaries on the book of Job, like a very atheistic commentary. Okay, so he ended up his life very not religious. But before he passed away, he had his son-in-laws next to him, and his children, his daughters, and he said in Yiddish, "Oy the Rebbe, oy," like he was mitcharet, "Oy the Rebbe, oy," like the Rebbe. Okay, and how do we know this? Because even though he left, even though he was against, but he had a care for the Breslov Hasidim, and he was always there to help them no matter what. Even though he was against the religion and Judaism as a whole, but for the Breslov Hasidim, even after Rabbi Nachman passed away, he was there for them, even though he was against everything, okay? So Rav Nachman Tutchener, Rav Nosman's main disciple, maintained a contact with him, even though he fled to to England, for whatever, for monetary things, whatever, for assistance and help, and he was always there for them. So the sons wrote back to Nachman Tutchener how he passed away, their father. So a guy, totally secular, anti, and the last things he's saying, "Oy the Rebbe," right before he passed away. The Gemara talks about stories like this. The Gemara talks about, what's his name? The Kohen God, of Yoshua ben Dordaya. That also he's a whole life sinner, and then he regretted, and then he just put his head between his legs and he cried and he passed away. And a voice came out from heaven, "Ashrecha, Rabbi Yoshua ben Dordaya, that you're entering Gan Eden." Even though he lived a whole life of sin, Yesh echad koneh et olamo b'sha'ah achat. Okay, so this is this idea basically that that a person can reach to his inner Ratzon the highest possible levels, and this is one of the most powerful lessons. That a Jew, no matter where he's fallen, if he chooses to yearn for Hashem, see these guys, there's Nachman Bialik and everything. They didn't know how to use their yearning. They didn't have Breslov. They had Breslov teachings. They probably know that the yearning is something. By the world, what value is my yearning? Look at the obstacle I'm having. Look at the situation. What value is my yearning for the test? Okay, so they give up because they say, well, "No, so what? Did I want to be a good Jew and everything? So what? There's no." Yeah, but look. Okay, and Rav Noson says the power of the Ratzon. Rabbi Nachman says this is your key. This is why everything is happening. The reason why things are squeezing you to death is in order to bring out your inner Ratzon. That's why it's happening, to get the ishtokekud out. It's not going to come out if you don't have these obstacles. That's what's happening. If everything's fine and dandy, you're never going to have ishtokekud. If you're born on a silver platter or silver spoons and everything, what do you want? You're the son of a Rebbe. There's now a story now circulating of a son of a Rebbe who got fed up and he discovered Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and people are so scared to reveal who it is because it's such a busha to the Chassidus that the Rebbe's son is now getting into Breslov. But he said himself that everything was dead. Everything was fake. He said about himself, my davening was fake, my learning was fake, my shalom bayit was fake, everything was fake, he said. There was nothing there. And he was dying. Like he would say, he was just dying inside, he had to show everyone that he's okay, he's Rebbe and everything. Unbelievable what people have to go through for the sake of, kavod and sheker, to hide the inner, and they never once in their life, they have a chance to express what's really deep inside. Not even once in life. Okay, it's crazy. And here he's saying, everything happening to you is to squeeze you to get out your hishtokekud of the Nefesh, Ruach Neshama, B'shosham Aryon, Lahasig Hasagot Elu. What does he conclude? Asher lechach notzarti. I was created for this. I was created for the hishtokekud to come out. And then he brought the verse we said last week, Tzama nafshi lelokim. We said this, right? My Nefesh, which is the first of the three, Nefesh and Koshik and Ruach and Koshik and Neshama. My Nefesh is Tzameh for Elokim. We said this yesterday, right? Last week, last class. The Elokim can mean Hashem's attribute of judgment. That we said thanks to Elokim, to, but towards, because of also. Le can be also because of Elokim. that my nefesh has a tzimaon, a thirst, lekel chai, to a living God. Living God, kel, is Hashem's attribute of chesed. That Hashem's attribute of chesed is still alive. As much as I see Elokim in my life, dinim, difficulty, suffering, but I know and believe and I yearn that Hashem, my God, is still alive. When I say kel chai, the living God, that the God of chesed is still there for me. It's still around. It's not dead. Matai avon, when will I come? And just to see the countenance, Pnei Elokim. We say Pnei Elokim. The face of Elokim is Yud Kevavke. That's the panim. Elokim is considered like the back part, the dinim. And Pnei is the face, the countenance, the shining part. Okay? That's the first verse that Rav Noson brings. This verse we saw is from chapter 42 in Tehillim. Okay? It's part of the Tikkun HaKlal. Now, where we're holding today. Where is it? Sorry, went backwards.
No, you did those.
I lost it. 1 second. I went down back the other way. Here we go. Now it brings down 2 verses from Psalms. You want to take a look, you can find it if you want. This is Psalms chapter 84, verses 2 and 3. They're connected. All the commentaries, they show that one verse is connected to the second verse. Let's see. Ma yedidot mishkenotecha Hashem tzvakot. So King David, or this is the sons of Korach, they're the ones who authored this chapter. They say like this: how beloved, yedidot, yedid is a friend, is a beloved one. How yedidot, how beloved are your sanctuaries, mishkenotecha, your sanctuaries, Hashem tzvakot, the God of the living hosts. Okay? Ma yedidot mishkenotecha. He says Mishkan. Mishkan, in our context, right? If we said there's a Hechal, there's 9 Hechalim, 9 chambers, the chambers are all within the Mishkan. The Mishkan is where Hashem's divine presence rests. So Rav Noson is talking now about the root of connecting to the infinite light. It's a Mishkan. From my perspective, it's the Mishkan is like the tent, is a sense, the vessel containing within them the 9 chambers which access the orot hatzachtzachot, the lights of splendor, which is another term for the infinite light. Rav Noson is saying now, how beloved Hashem is wherever you dwell, Hashem tzvakot, the God of hosts. How beloved, let's see the Targum. You have the Targum there?
Which chapter?
It's Pei Dalet, Pasuk Bet. There's a lot in Targum. You know, when you try to understand the verse, you look at the Targum and you see the amazing stuff. Okay, so the verse reads, thank you. See, in Targum, Ma hinun rechimin. Look at that. How much are they beloved? Rechimin is ahava. Mishkenayich, Hashem tzvakot. We have no opening for that. I want to look at the Gemara also doesn't go into that. Okay, so Hashem, the God of hosts. There's a lot. I feel there's something here, but I don't know what it is. I wanted to research more this verse from the Midrash on the Pasuk. I guess Bez Hashem, hopefully next class. But there's something here and we don't see it. Okay, Mai didot mishkenoch Hashem tzvakot. That's verse 2. Verse 3. Look at this. Nichsefa vegam kalta nafshi lechatzot Hashem. So nichsefa is a term for yearning, right? My nefesh, my soul, is chosef, yearning. Vegam kalta, like chalot means to expire. It's expiring due to the yearning. It's 2 levels of yearning. The Malbim goes into this also. Nichsefa is the yearning in peula, and then kalta is like you can't do any more yearning and like you're dead or at rock bottom. Let's take a deeper look at this. Nichsefa has the same root as kesef, money. Okay? So nichsefa can say like this: you want something in life? Pay for it. You really want to go to Eretz Yisrael? Then go buy a ticket. You really want to go to Uman Rosh Hashanah? Then go spend money. No, I don't have money in this. Okay, so you don't want. You really want something, you get a bus ticket, you go on a bus and you go. You really want a book, nothing stops you. I need this book, I don't care no matter what. Money, take all my money. I want something done, Shabbos expenses, I don't care. I want my Shabbos table to be good. I don't care how much it's going to be. Let my Shabbos table, the fruits cost 250 shekels, whatever. I don't care. Here, take it. I want these fruit for because you want something. So like they say in English, you want it, pay for it. So that's the idea of kisufin. Kisufin, the expression kisufin, is your yearning is expressed in what you can do. You can do this. I can. Money is normally when you see someone does something, it's normally expressed in his funds, his financial means. Because the person, what keeps him on his feet, like we know, ma'amido al raglav, is his parnasa. What keeps a person being able to move around? A person who has no money, he can't do anything. He can't buy, he can't shop, he needs to find food. He's like, that's why people like who are homeless, they don't know what to do. They're just stuck, right? But someone who has movement is because he has money. He can go buy this, I can go shopping, I have to pay the bill, I have to go to work. He has what to do with his finances that gets him to move in life, okay? So on a spiritual level, when you want something, okay, yalla, show us that you want. Show us. How much do you want? Pay for it. No. You know, yeah. When you say you want, okay, and we give it to you for free, you take it. But when you tell you have to pay for it, you don't want, that means you don't really want. You really want for it? How far are you willing to go to do this item? How much are you willing to pay to give up your blood money, your blood, to get something? That's kisufin, okay? Kalta means when there's no more money. Kalta, that's it, no more. You've exhausted all of your resources. I have nothing left. And I can't do any more. I did my maximum. I did this, I that, okay? There's just a story that's coming to mind now, an amazing story, you probably heard it from me. Or for Rav Saadia Gaon or Rav Hai Gaon, one of the two. He was filthy rich, tons of money. He was one of the big rabbis in Pumbedita and Bavel, whatever. And every year for Pesach, he would buy new dishes. Every year, they bought new chinaware, expensive dishes, okay? So he would send one of his servants to tovel the dishes in one of the rivers. That's what they did back then. They don't have like we have today, like a special mikveh for kelim. They would go to they had access to little lakes and rivers, and they'd go to tovel. And it was a servant, very professional servant, and he had to be very careful of the dishes, they don't break and everything. So he toveled the dishes, and by accident, one dish of this chinaware slipped his hands. It left his hands. And he felt, whoa, it's an expensive dish. Each dish cost like a few, like today in today's standards, maybe a few $100s. That's how expensive this chinaware was back then, And it was for Pesach, for Rav Saadia and his family. So he decided not to tell Rav Saadia. Okay, he didn't tell him. A year goes by, and the next year, the same servant is sent with the new chinaware to dunk into the river. So he's dunking the dishes, and he sees coming down the river towards him the dish from last year. He grabbed the dish, he looked at it, he couldn't believe his eyes. He saw that was the exact style and the color. It's like a pure, not normal, supernatural, superhuman miracle. And he couldn't keep quiet. He said, I have to tell Rav Saadia about what happened. Okay? So he gets back, when he finished toveling all the kelim, all the dishes, and brought it back to the house, the mansion of Rav Saadia. So he told him what happened. And he said, I'm sorry, I admit, I confess I didn't tell you last year, but the miracle was so big that the dish comes intact, not broken, coming down this downstream, the same river I am. That's not normal. So I'm telling you about this miracle, this how much Hashem loves you, whatever. So Saadia heard this, and he started to cry. The servant felt so bad. So I was trying to give him good news, and he feels bad. And he said, that's it, our fortune is finished, everything's downhill. And he told his wife, get ready, we're going to have bad things happening in life now. And things started to happen. All of a sudden, there was a fire that broke out in his property, and someone stole from him money, and he started losing, and this, till he lost everything. And he was mamash left with nothing. And even the communities tried to help him, but they couldn't help him to get up on his feet because he owed tons of money and the debts and everything. So he left to Egypt, where his wife had family, her cousins and relatives from Egypt. So he sent them to Egypt. Okay, and many years passed until this actually happened. And he had to fire all the servants, including this servant. Meanwhile, this servant decided to go into business, and he became a very wealthy businessman dealing with countries, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, Israel, whatever was then, Syria. He was very into merchandise and everything. And years pass, and when Rav Saadia finally brought his family to Egypt, and he was like a walking, like skinny, no one recognized him, all miserable, no one can help him because he owed tons of money. and he was walking on the street like a half dead from his weakness, and he got sick from the pain of losing of all the debts and all the loss of money and all the it took a toll on him mentally and emotionally. And the servant now became rich, and he was walking in the shuk in the city in Egypt, and he saw Rav Sadia. He couldn't forget him because he was a good master to him, and he worked for him for many years. He saw him and he recognized him. He said, Rav Sadia! And he looked at him and he fainted. So quickly he took the servant, who's now a businessman, took Rav Sadia into his home, and he brought doctors and they cleaned him up and everything, take care of him. And Rav Sadia was like unconscious. They brought doctors to come, and they checked his pulse, and they checked everything. They said he's very sick. We do not help him. So then one doctor came, and he checked him out. And he said, "Listen, there's something you can help, but it's very expensive. There's an expensive herb from like India or Indonesia, whatever, from Asia. You have to buy a lot of it, and you have to boil it down, boil it until it's condensed to 1 spoon, and that spoon you give to Rav Sadia, and that can help. That's the only solution. There's a very expensive herb that comes in a potion, and you buy. It's very expensive. You buy a lot of it, you boil it down, give it to Rav Sadia, and then and that can help." So the servant, because he was so good to him, Rav Sadia, he was willing to go all the way to help him. So he ordered this herb, had it sent, and they boiled it down, and they told him, Sadia, you have to open your mouth now. We're about to put this spoon. This is going to heal you. This is a very expensive herb, and we worked very hard to get it for you. Please open your mouth. As Rav Sadia was opening his mouth, and they're about to put this spoon in his mouth, there was a spider on the ceiling, directly above the spoon, and by chance, the spider lost grip, fell right into the spoon. The impact, it all splashed, gone, soaked into his clothing. And the servant started to cry. And he's crying. And he sees Rav Sadia smiling. And the servant said to Rav Sadia, I don't understand. 3 years ago, when I told you about the plate, I was so happy smiling, and you were crying. You started to cry. And now, I did everything to try to save your life, and now it's over. Spent tons of money, everything went down the drain. So I'm crying, and now you're smiling? He said, listen, back then I was on the top of everything. And everything was going for me in my life, my money, my family, my Torah study, everything was amazing. Okay? And then when this thing happened on top, like the cherry on top of the plate, it was too good to be true, and that was the sign that now things are gonna go bad. And now I'm rock bottom. I lost everything, my health also. And you're trying to help me, and not only trying to help me, but then a spider falls from the ceiling into the spoon and knocks me out. I'm at rock bottom. So now I know things are going to turn. Okay? In our context, that when a person is hit rock bottom, the only reason why it happens is in order to bring out the Ratzonot. Because the only way to get Ratzonot is through being boxed in life. If you're not in the boxing match, then you're not a warrior. Right? Al yitalel choger kimfateach. There's an expression in the Gemara. The person who's girding his loins to go out to battle, right? The one who's and this guy taking off his, the one who's putting on the belt for battle, the buckle of all the weapons. He shouldn't start boasting and everything that the guy who's coming back and he's now taking off the buckle. The guy taking off, he went through life. He went through the boxing match. He has the right to talk. You have no right to talk. You're starting. You're a beginner. You're a nobody. You have to go, let's see you in the boxing match, and how you do. Our boxing match success is the Ratzon. Even like Rocky, gets punched in the face, boom, 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 boom. But he's still holding on. I have a Ratzon. My Ratzon is still Hashem. This is what opens up the doorways. So, Nichsefa v'gam kalta. Kalta, like Rav Sadia, they did everything. There's no more money now. What do you want? Nothing. They did everything to help him. Kalta is when I have no more means, no more resources to do. All I can do is just yearn and cry like you see, there's yearning where you're not against the wall, and then there's yearning against the wall. Both are needed. There's the yearning, the initial yearning that a person now discovers Judaism and everything. Oh, I just want to be in Eretz Yisrael. I just want to be Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I just want to be by the tzaddikim. I just want this. I want that. So the Ratzon and it's manageable. You can now get on a plane, you can afford it, you can get money together. It's not impossible. That's nichsefa. Kalta is mamash, where now you've did everything, and you have just a brick wall in front of you. All you can do is lechalot. By the keter, they push you. It's a brick wall. They push you to get even the lechalot by chal. Okay, the lechalot is what we want to get to, but the prerequisite for lechalot is nichsefa. So the pasuk says, nichsefa v'gam kalta nafshi. Okay, so first he says in the pasuk bet, ma'idot mishkenotecha. The mishkan is considered the whole compound. In the mishkan you have the chatzer and the heichal. Okay, so ma'idot, how beloved Hashem is the whole Mishkan of Hashem Tzvakot, the God of hosts. Now I'm beginning to understand. Tzvakot is Hashem has mainly angels there. There's Hashem and Tzvakot, okay? The different parts of the Mishkan correspond to dwelling places of the different parts of Hashem and his Pamalia and the angels that escort him. So Hashem Tzvakot, it's for the Mishkan, because in the Mishkan you have the Holy of Holies, the Heichal, the Chatzer, okay, different parts. And each part is designated for a different entity. I know it's hard to say Hashem is everywhere, but the one that's unique for Yud Ke Vav Ke is only the Kodesh Kodashim. That's infinite light, Orot, Tzachot. That's the main part. Nothing else. The Tzvakot is the Chatzer, is the other parts. That's why it looks like he said Hashem Tzvakot, because it's both. It's all inclusive. Hashem and the angels, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, all the angels are a part of Tzvakot. And then he goes on, Nichsefa begam kata nafshi lechatzrot Hashem. I just want to get into the chatzer, the courtyard, okay? The courtyard and heichal. What's the difference between heichal and chatzer? Do you remember? What's a heichal? What's a chatzer? What is the heichal, first of all, in the Mishkan? Heichal is where the
Enclosed.
Yeah, but what was in the heichal? The menorah. Okay, fine. And so, but that means the Kodesh Kodashim is not heichal. Well, that's also called heichal.
It's the last part of the heichal.
So heichal is the two parts together. The heichal is the Holy of Holies that has the ark, right? And there's the parochet, and then you have the menorah, the shulchan, and the mizbeach hazav for the ktoret. All that is heichal, and then the chatzer is where the mizbeach nechoshet is. Can we call it the chatzer? Okay.
That's what it's called.
It's called the chatzer. It is the courtyard. The Mizbeach was in the courtyard. Even though the courtyard has two parts, it says where to put the Mizbeach and Nechoshet is like at the middle point of the Chatzer. There's the empty part, which I would thought that was called the Chatzer. But also the Mizbeach. Right, but the Mizbeach and Nechoshet is still considered in the Chatzer. It's part of the Chatzer. Okay, so let's take a look.
And even the side of the heichal was also the chatzer.
Besides, because the Heichal was only in the middle. Yeah, the sides here.
The right is
It's called Chatzer though. Here's called Chatzer. Here's called Chatzer, and all this is called Chatzer. What's at the edge, at the end, is the Kodesh Kodashim and the Kodesh. That's the Heichal.
Indoors are heichal.
So they're both called Heichal, basically. Okay. So he says like this: Nichsefa v'gam kalta nafshi lechatzrot Hashem, to the courtyards of Hashem. I'm yearning just to get to the courtyards. You hear that? So 1 second. There's something wrong here. The screen is just going back and forth. I'm sorry, I just want to fix this quickly because I'm not happy about this. 1 second. Let me just fix this. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay, I hope I did the right thing. I hope that was okay. Okay, fine. Just the screen keeps on switching here. Okay, fine. Fine. Let's hope it doesn't switch and move back and forth. Sorry. Okay, so again, he's saying here, Chosef, I yearn, and Megam Kalta, I'm against the wall and yearning, pining. I can't go forward. I just there's no take my life. That's all that's left, Hashem. Nafshi, just to the Chatzer of Hashem, not even to the Heichal. Okay. To the Chatzer of Hashem, and now for both of them, for that, Libi v'sari, Yiranenu el chai. With that, my heart and my flesh will yiranen. Yiranen means what? Rina will rejoice to the Kel Chai who's still around, the Kel Chai, the living God, the God of Chesed, okay? I wanted so much to go into this verse because there's so much here we see already. Libi uvsari, my heart and my flesh. The commentary is like this: the basar is the actual lips, and the lev is the kavanah behind the words. Not just to say the words with basar, with my lips moving, not just lip service, but that my heart is in the words, and that together yiranenu el chai. But he says in the Likutey Moharan lesson 24 that the lev is the place of joy. You remember? Natata simcha belibi. So libi v'sari, number one, is yearning. But number two, the fuel to make sure that there's yearning is that there's simcha behind it. So libi v'sari is the heart of simcha. That's the backbone, the beginning point, the initiator for all the kisufin to come out. Uvsari and the flesh of the mouth. Together, Yiranenu, Rina as simcha, is not just praying. Rina is a joyous expression of praise to God, to the God of Chesed. Listen, I think we have to stop here because this is very intense, and we still have to finish this paragraph. But it's just phenomenal how deep and how far-reaching this is. We should be zocher to say this prayer again and again and again and again and again. I've said it at least, I think, 100 times already in these past 4 years, at least 100 times more. And it's endless well springs of hope and yearning, and we should be zocher b'ezat Hashem. Okay, thank you for joining, and we should have it only good b'ezat Hashem.